Good Erev Shabbos. Everyone is in the wrong spots. Good Erev Shabbos. This week's Parsha is Parshas Sisa. I would normally have spent the entire time talking about Para Aduma. It's also Parshas Para, but already Rabbi Stefanski made a beautiful, amazing presentation yesterday, which I say personally, it gives me a much greater appreciation for the Para Aduma. You think about the Para Aduma and the whole, just the amount of time and effort and creativity that went into that whole presentation. You know, if a person really, really wants to take a specific topic and be able to explain it to his fellow Yid, to really, really work on it. It's not like Rabbi Stefanski was getting paid millions at the time. He wasn't working for Ur Shlomo at the time when he made it. So he wasn't getting paid millions at the time to be able to make such a program. Why do you even choose? Why do you choose to? Why Para Aduma? It's abstract. Was that really the reason? It was like a topic that people had a hard time being able to visualize, and he worked on it, and he got an artist to be able to make all that. He got an artist to make all the art. Spent the time to do all the slides, the voiceover. I was thinking about it. It's that place. The voiceover for the end part. Also, you saw how quickly the frames change because you can't have a frame on a screen for too long. How many? It's like a quarter of a second. Some of those frames. Is that what it was? Very quick to be able to take a subject and be able to clarify it for ourselves. It's extremely, extremely important. I've mentioned for these parshas, a lot of the parshas that we're learning now, it's hard for us to appreciate. And I've mentioned a few weeks ago how people check out of the parsha from Parshas Truma until the middle of Bamidbar because the things there are abstract, like Rabbi Stefanski said, because it's hard for us to visualize it. And as I said also, when I learn these parshas, I really work hard to visualize the things we have here. In Truma and Tetzaveh, and now we're up to Sisa, I bought these two Sfarim to be able to work hard. The Sefer really goes through every pasuk with every Rashi to understand the construction of the Mishkan for Parshas Truma, and then every pasuk with every Rashi to try to understand the creation of the clothing of the Kohen and the Kohen Gadol to be able to understand. And I really, one Shabbos, all that Shabbos of Parshas Tetzaveh last week, I spent a large portion of the Shabbos just trying to work on the stones of the Choshen. That's what I was working on. On the Leil Shabbos, I would spend time with some of my favorite people for a 4.5 hour Shabbat Yesuda. But on Shabbos day, I really wanted to appreciate the stones of the Choshen. The stones of the Choshen. I was very jealous, I'll tell you the truth personally. When I was in 4th grade, the boys in my class who were the better learners, more stark boys, they went to an enrichment class. They got to go out of the class and they learned with someone, Rav Pam's son, the famous Rav Pam Zatzal's son, and they went out to go learn with him. And they came back to the class with all the stuff they learned, and I was so jealous. I still remember he taught them a song to remember the 12 stones of the Choshen. Aydem pidita, aydem pidita, aydem pidita v'rakes, aydem pidita. And then I was too jealous to remember the rest of the song. So I didn't know it, but I felt very jealous. So last week, I spent time learning the stones of the Choshen, aydem pidita v'rakes, and etc., all the rest of the stones, to be able to appreciate them. And then I learned the Sefer, the Al-Shech, and he goes into each one of these stones, why it's connected to the Shevet that was written on that stone. Did you know, Tano? On each of the stones were carved in letters. And those letters were very important. Why were they very important, Yosef? Because when they lit up, exactly, Mayor. When the Kohen Gadol would have questions asked, so the Choshen, the letters would light up in order for the people to be able to understand the message that Kadosh Baruch Hu was telling them through the Urim V'Tumim. An unbelievable thing. But you have to work on it. And get to Parshas Sisa, you want to work on it. Now, what would you work on in Parshas Sisa? There's a lot. There's a lot to work on. You might want to work on even just the kiyar, the fountain that the Jewish people wash their hands in, the Jewish people, the Kahanim, like Netanel. The Kahanim each morning, Yeshua, the Kahanim each morning who would wash their hands, specifically how they went about that. They say it wasn't easy to be able to wash your hands and feet at the same time from the kiyar. And the technology, the Mishnah discusses the technology. I think it's the Mishnah Maseches Shkalim, discusses the technology to be able to use the kiyar properly, because when water was kept overnight in the Mishkan, so then that water cannot be used for the next day. So you have to empty it out every single day. So they developed a technology. In fact, it was called a mechanism, and the Mishnah calls it a muchni mechanism, to be able to use the kiyar day in, day out. It just appreciate it. Perhaps you might want to go learn a Mishnah in Shkalim over Shabbos to appreciate the kiyar. And there's so much going on in Parshas Sisa. Of course, the most memorable part of Parshas Sisa is the Chet HaEgel. Unfortunately, the sin of the Jewish people, and the golden calf. The golden calf. And I want to talk about that just for a moment. Just a little bit of an off-topic point, a small point. Also, the end of this Parsha talks about Moshe Rabbeinu has horns. Did you know Moshe Rabbeinu had horns? Yeah, Moshe Rabbeinu has horns. It says in the end of this Parsha. Moshe Rabbeinu had Karan Or Pnei Moshe. Moshe Rabbeinu had horns of light calling off of his head. Yeah, it had horns. You know Moshe Rabbeinu had horns. One time my brother-in-law, he went to China. He used to go to China very often. He has not gone back ever since they killed the whole world. But he used to go to China very, very often to be able to make whatever products he makes in China. And when he got there, he met a real executive of a Chinese company. And this man says to him, "Can we have a private meeting?" So he said, "Okay, sure." And they asked for 2 requests. The first request, they said, "Can you pick up your cap so we could see the Jewish horns?" That was their first request. Moshe Clare. The second request they asked him is that when he goes back to his next meeting, now who's he meeting with? His next meeting, if he can please tell the Prime Minister of Israel to stop his blockade of Iran, because it's not good for business. So if he can please, the next meeting of all the Jewish powers, his next Jew meeting that controls the world. The Chinese really feel this way. They really feel the Jews control the world, and not in a bad way. They think it's great business. They don't know how the Jews control the world. They're very supportive of it. They just want to make sure they get a good cut. So they asked him by his next meeting if he could tell Netanyahu to stop with his blockade of Iran to be able to help with business. That would be better. So he showed his Jewish horns, which of course everybody. That's why we wear yarmulkes. That's why we wear yarmulkes. It's hiding your Jewish horns. You don't know? It's Bez Hashem. Then there's this special. Okay, fine. You look at old painting. I saw an old painting 2 days ago. It shows Moshe Rabbeinu with horns. People think there's only one famous sculptor, Michelangelo. They think that was the only one who made horns coming from Moshe Rabbeinu. But in fact, a good many paintings from that period, from the 1500s, has Moshe Rabbeinu with very, very big horns. I saw one, Moshe Rabbeinu had like a unicorn horns. 2 unicorn, very, very pointy, coming off of his head. Very exciting. The Chet HaEgel. The Chet HaEgel. I want to touch on one quick point of the Chet HaEgel. One quick point. Why the Jewish people did the sin of the Egel, like Meir said to me earlier, it's almost ridiculous to us. How in the world did they do this, Aveh? Would you have done it? You say, of course not. Would I have done the Chet HaEgel? The Avodah Zara, how I just saw Matan Torah, HaKadosh Baruch Hu told us, you're not going to have any other gods, and here we go, the Chet HaEgel. Okay, obviously, if you want to work on something, try to get some good explanations for the Chet HaEgel to get an appreciation. But I want to be able to touch on one point. What do the Jewish people say to Moshe Rabbeinu, to Aaron HaKohen? My son's name is Aaron. I'm very defensive about Aaron now. Aaron HaKohen is there. Moshe Rabbeinu went up on top of the mountain, and Aaron HaKohen is there. And the Jewish people come over to him, and they say Moshe Rabbeinu is gone. What should we do? They said Moshe Rabbeinu was late. You see, even then, a nace happened back then. Jewish people come late. I know it's hard to imagine, but Moshe Rabbeinu was late. That's what they felt. In the end, they were wrong. This is like the excuse we always get in the morning. No, I wasn't really late. It wasn't my fault. Moshe Rabbeinu was the first one. He wasn't really late. He was supposed to come back later. Okay. So So they come to Aaron HaKohen, and they say to him, Vayomru Elov, they said to him, Kum ase lanu Elohim, make a geshka for us, asher yelchu lefanenu, that it should go in front of us, Kizeh, Moshe ha'ish, asher alonu me'eretz Mitzrayim, this Moshe, the man, who took us out of Mitzrayim, who brought us up from Mitzrayim, lo yadanu mehayaloi. Oh, we don't know. We don't know what happened. Huh? I'm just curious. Shouldn't they have come over to Aaron HaKohen and they said to him like this, Moshe Rabbeinu is missing. Aaron. What should they have said? What? What should they have said? What should they have said? No, Moshe Rabbeinu isn't here. What should they have said? Where is he? Where is he? That's honestly, that's what they should have said. Not lo yadanu mehayaloi, make us a god. It should say, where is he? Aaron HaKohen is not a sculptor. Aaron HaKohen is Moshe Rabbeinu's brother. The first thing David, he should have said was, all the Jewish people, they should have said, where is he? Can you answer the question? Can you tell me where he is? Can you tell me where he is? And if that would have happened, what would have happened after that? What would he have told them? Aaron HaKohen would have said, well, you and your calculations are like this. Moshe Rabbeinu is still in Shemayim. He's planning on coming down. Don't worry about it. He's going to be here at the end of the day. Just wait another 6 hours, and I'll be there in a few minutes. You don't have to worry. Why did they say, Lo yadanu mehaya lo? We don't know. We don't know what happened. We don't know what happened. I want to talk about 2 quick points. First quick point, second quick point, and then I'll say good Shabbos. The first quick point is the Jewish people have, it seems, Chas v'shalom would never judge the greatest generation, but the Jewish people have a big issue here. You know what the big issue of the Jewish people is? They don't have people to ask the questions to. And something bad happens to you, when you're dealing with a struggle, when you're dealing with some difficulty, do you answer the question and say, I don't know, I guess I'm just going to bluff? Do you use the dirtiest word in the Jewish language? You know what the dirtiest word in the Jewish language is? Don't tell me, I'll tell you what it is. The dirtiest word in the Jewish language is just. J-U-S-T. Just. Just. You know why it's the dirtiest word in the Jewish language? Should I tell you why? Because it means, it's not come inside. What it means is that I'm not going to think about it. I'm not going to get an accurate response to it. I am just going to do it. Like Nike has taught us, exactly, thank you so much, like Nike has taught us in their tremendous chinuch, just do it. Just do it means stop thinking so much. You need a Rebbe? You don't need a Rebbe. You don't need to talk to anybody. I have no idea what happened, and I'm not going to ask any questions. I am just going to do it. And that's what they came up to Aaron HaKohen. They did not ask him a question. They did not ask him one question, not one. His brother is missing. And all they say to him is, I don't know what happened. Let's just build an Avodah Zarah. Huh? That's what they said. Let's just do it. Let's just do it. So dangerous. I have this line stuck in my head. This line stuck in my head. And many years ago, I used to love listening. I mentioned it earlier, a few weeks ago. I used to love listening to the shmuz and the shiurim of Rav Mordechai Gifter Zatzal. I like listening to him because he really rips into people. It was so geschmack how he really takes people down. And it was great. Really one famous shmuz I love listening to about 85 times. I used to come home to my father's Shabbos table and imitate the whole thing. Do it again. It was hilarious. And in one of them, he says like this. There was a telegram, so I'm just taking one point. There was a telegram sent during the Holocaust. Of course, during the Holocaust, people were dealing with some extremely horrible times, some extreme terrible challenges. And a telegram was sent by one of their Rabbanim to America, to an organization called the Vada Atzala, which was the organization which was going to save Yidden all over, wherever they could find them. during the Holocaust. The Vada Hatzalah run by, of course, once he came to America, Rav Aaron Kotler, of course, also run by Rosh Yeshiva, the Rav Rav Kalmanovich, Rav Ram Kalmanovich, Mir Rosh Yeshiva, father-in-law of Shmuel Berenbaum. The Vada Rabbanim run by this Israel in America, many Rabbanim, all those. And a telegram was sent to them. And imagine the telegram, to pay every letter in a telegram. When you sent it, you have to say. And this telegram said like this, as our Gifter quoted it: those who have questions have no answers, and those who believe have no questions. That was the letter. And it stuck in my mind. Those who have questions have no answers, and those who believe have no questions. And it's extremely powerful. If you believe, you don't know the answers to everything. But if you believe, you'll have no questions. But sometimes it's the opposite. Sometimes you believe in the wrong things. And because you believe in the wrong things, you have no questions. Very dangerous. I believe. A guy came up to me the other day. He asked me, like, what's my opinion of how important it is to daven with a minyan? Because he holds it's not so important. So I told him, you're very much entitled to your opinion, but not when it goes with what you'd rather do in life. If you'd rather be an LGFN, which stands for, what's LGFN? A lazy good for nothing. If you'd rather be a lazy good for nothing, and believing in your opinion helps you be an LGFN, so then your opinion doesn't matter in that case. Because of course you're going to have that opinion to be able to uphold your value of lying in bed for as long as you can. So it is dangerous. The Jewish people, they said to themselves, we can ask questions, but if we ask questions, then we might have to change our opinions. Chas v'sholom, chas v'sholom, chas v'sholom. Better not to ask the question. Better not to ask the question. I happen to have a very dear Talmud. He asks a lot of questions. And Baruch Hashem, the questions that he asks are in a certain sense always to his, I'm not going to say detriment, because obviously it's long-term gain, but there are a lot of hard things for him. But he asks the question. Because Baruch Hashem, I'm fortunate enough to be his Rebbe, and he doesn't respond like the Jewish people simply say, I don't know what to do, and therefore I won't do anything at all. I won't show up. I will just do it. I will just not do it. I don't have to think about it. It's scary. I want to say one other thing. When the Jewish people were by Har Sinai, very famously, the Jewish people were Ke'ish Echad Belev Echad. Ke'ish Echad Belev Echad. One people, one heart. How do we know that? Because it speaks in the singular. It talks about the Jewish people camping out in the singular. But when the Jewish people are over here, by the Egel, over and over and over, it is in the plural. Everything's in the plural. There is no more unified Jewish people. Everyone's only thinking about whom? Themselves. Selfish people. Selfish people make horrible decisions. Very dangerous. Very dangerous to live with a selfish person. I was thinking about whether I should talk about this or not. Unfortunately, some things historically are stuck in my head. Some things. I want to talk to you about a basketball team. Not last night's basketball team, a different basketball team. I thought about this before I went to sleep because of last night's basketball team, but I want to talk about a basketball team. It was the Detroit Pistons. The Detroit Pistons in the championships in 2004, 2003, 2004. Now, I want to tell you who was on the starting five of the Detroit Pistons in 2004. 2004. I think before everyone was born. Yeah, the Detroit Pistons in 2004. Who was the starting five? Tell me if you've heard of any of these guys. Maybe you have. Ben Wallace, Rasheed Wallace, Chauncey Billups, okay, Tayshaun Prince, and Richard Hamilton. Okay, Tayshaun Prince and Richard Hamilton. I will tell you, if you've heard of any of these guys, it wasn't because any of these guys went to the Blazers afterwards. It wasn't because of that. It wasn't because one of them ended up being a Knick. The only reason these guys were famous is because they won in 2004 for the Detroit Pistons. And another thing to know about these guys is that before the 2004 Detroit Pistons, nobody cared about any of them. Rasheed Wallace was an undersized power forward, and Ben Wallace, I think, was even shorter than maybe. I'm not sure. I don't remember that part. Yeah, was an undersized center. Chauncey Billups was a questionable point guard. Tayshaun Prince was famous for one thing. He had weird long arms. That is what he was famous for. And with his weird long arms, he blocked Reggie Miller. He blocked Reggie Miller, the famous block on Reggie Miller. But that's Tayshaun Prince. And then Richard Hamilton, nobody ever heard of before, nobody ever heard of after, and I think he's a coach somewhere. Who cares about this guy? I think he's dead now. Yeah? I think there's two. There's two Richard Hamiltons. I'm not sure which one's dead. But I will tell you, this team individually, there was nothing special about it. The Detroit Pistons. Nobody paid attention to the Detroit Pistons since 1988 until Michael Jordan figured out a way to beat them. That was the last time people cared about the Pistons. Pistons. Joe Dumars. You guys remember Joe Dumars? No, you're lying. Nobody remembers this guy. The guy stunk. He was zero, Sheba zero. But this team was valuable because they worked off of each other's talents. They literally were only valuable, because they looked at each other and saw, how can we take care of this team together? And because of that, it's hard to imagine if you follow sports nowadays, but it's hard to imagine, they kept teams under 80 points in a basketball game. They were never a good offensive team. The guy had weird arms. How well could he do? He had funny situation going on there. Yeah, he did. He had spaghetti arms. But to be able to win, we look out for each other. We take care of each other. It's impossible for the Jewish people to succeed when all we're looking at is ourselves. I bring up Marshall. Okay, I think it's a grubba Marshall. The Detroit Pistons from 2004. But these guys are only memorable because they take care of each other. On the court, I'm sure off the court, they were the worst, horrible, terrible human beings. By the way, those two, the power forward and the center, I think they both went to prison. But either way, what do we need to take out of this? The Jewish people, when they were together, Har Sinai. When the Jewish people, when they're apart, Cheder Egel. My dear friend, Mayor Weiss, wanted me to give a different shmooze, so I'll give that whole shmooze right now. Just joking. But my dear friend, he points out that one of the great dangers of the Cheder Egel was a terrible version of peer pressure. A terrible version of peer pressure, which all of them got each other just getting lost in the chaos. But I want to emphasize, peer pressure is dangerous when I don't think about you. Actually, you think it's the opposite. Peer pressure is dangerous, Shimon, when I don't think about you. If I'm thinking about you, then peer pressure could be the best. When I was in Torah Moshe in Eretz Yisrael, I went to Eretz Yisrael. When I was there, we learned so much more from the peer pressure. Because he had the coolest guy. He's a Rebbe now. He's in May. I say his name. His name is Rabbi Tzvi Greenfield. He's a great guy. He's a Rebbe out in May. Tall, basketball player, cool guy. But you know what? He took care of us, and he was older than me, and he'd be learning straight through the night. And that was peer pressure. Peer pressure was another guy. Back then, they used to call him Ryan Gordon. Now his name is Shalom Tovi. He's a Rebbe somewhere. I'm sure I have no idea where he is. But this guy, you want to hear peer pressure of what means to take care of each other? On Purim night, my roommate in Eretz Yisrael, it's 2 days of Purim. So the first day we went out of Yerushalayim. He went out of Yerushalayim with Telstone. In Telstone, he got totally wasted. Comes back to Yerushalayim that night, so sick, lying in bed, and we're all going to sleep. And in the middle of the night, I'm waking up to, he throws up all over himself, and he hasn't even had Purim yet. He's throwing up all over himself, and what's going to happen? I don't know, we'll all say, gross, go clean yourself up. That would be if we weren't all taking care of each other. But no, 3 older guys in yeshiva, including this guy, Ryan Gordon, he comes in, They heard about what happened right then. They come into the room. They bring it. Big guy, this guy. Very, very large guy. They bring him from his bed, covered in his own throw up. They bring him to the shower with his clothes on. They wash him off in the shower. They wash him off. At this point, he's waking up a little bit. They clean him off. They bring him back to his room. They ask him, where's his clothing? He said he'll take care of himself. And he goes and he cleans himself up. While he's in the bathroom, they change his sheets. You know how old these guys are? I'm thinking back now. I was in first year, so these guys are 21 years old. A bunch of 21-year-olds taking care of each other, cleaning a guy off from his throw up. They change his linen, put him back into his bed, and he went to sleep that night, and he used to snore like a cannon. But the guy went back to sleep. That is great peer pressure. Because I look at that till this day, a long time later, and I'm looking back at that and I'm still feeling the pressure to be like these guys. So there's two messages here. Message number one is don't just do it. Don't just do it. Lo yadanu ma hayaloi. I don't know. I'm not going to ask any questions. I'll just do it. Chas v'shalom. And point number two, Shua. Point number two is when we're not together, then peer pressure is dangerous, and you're going to have a chet ha'egel. And when we are together, you'll have the giving of the Torah and Har Sinai. Take care of each other. Take care of each other. Make sure everyone's being good. Everyone should have a beautiful Shabbos, Be'ez Hashem.